Welcome to the Healthy Homes Realtor program. Again, my name is Gennady Kravoy. I'm a commercial and residential agent in the Lower Mainland and the Fraser Valley. Our focus of this show is to bring knowledge and expertise from health professionals that I collaborate with that help me with my Healthy Homes Realtor business. Today, I have the honor of interviewing a good friend of mine, a colleague, and also the owner of MediWorks Rejuvenation Clinic in South Surrey. Dr. Badesha, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
So let's get right into it. Just as a naturopath, you're obviously been trained a lot in understanding how environment affects people's health, their natural environment, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what you study, right? So I just want to address kind of the three main points that kind of come up in my work as a realtor, which is water, air, and kind of toxicity stuff in home. So I have a couple, actually I have 5 specific questions I want to ask you.
Sure.
So first question, I want to connect the idea of health to real estate in the sense of like a physical building. You've taught me before about the idea of something called sick building syndrome. So can you elaborate a little bit more what that is?
Yeah, but yeah, thanks again for having me on your show, your podcast.
Yeah.
Sick building, it's a simple concept. Basically, it's a condition where people in certain buildings, whether it be like an apartment building, office building, even their house, present with specific health conditions. Like they may feel just off or sick when they go into a particular environment, like an office building or like their house. So more often than not, it's something connected with the air quality in the building. It could be something like mold. In newer homes, it could be what we call VOCs, volatile organic compounds. So these are things like glues and adhesives that off gas that make people sick. So at the end of the day, it's usually an issue with air quality and improper ventilation.
Right. And it's one of those things that people feel it right when they go in.
Yeah.
And then when they come out, they feel a little bit better.
Yeah, they feel better. Like as soon as you go into this building or whatever it is, you can get symptoms. Even you can get rashes, headaches, fatigue, lack of energy, just overall feeling of unwellness. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And people might not associate it to the actual building.
No, they don't. They don't think it's anything to do with the building, but quite often it is. I mean, like I mentioned, it's more often than not like a ventilation issue. If it's an older building, could be mold. Just could be like dust coming up through the vents. In a newer building, it tends to be more of like the glues and adhesives and things like that. It can even be electromagnetic radiation. Like for example, like if you have a building beside a cell phone tower, for example, some people are sensitive to electromagnetic radiation and they feel really ill.
Right. So that's a lot of aspects to cover. So that makes sense. And I think a lot of people can intuitively feel it or remember a time when they experienced that, right? But they might not have associated it to the building or the home that they're living in.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think it just, if you know that, hey, look, if when I go in, for example, like I lived in a 1-bedroom basement suite back in 2005, and my wife and I, we used to feel sick every time we'd come home from work. We looked around, it's a tiny little suite, but then when we looked in the back, actually in a closet, the whole back of the closet was black mold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, we always just, we'd walk outside and, get fresh air. We'd always feel better. But as soon as we walk into the house, we felt really, we felt ill. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So I see that a lot, right? Honestly, and people might not realize it when they're buying or selling a home. So let's get into something specific. Like say, you mentioned air. I'll jump to my question about air now instead of water. What are some key factors that contribute to indoor air quality? And what steps can individuals take to ensure a healthy and clean indoor environment, particularly in terms of reducing pollutants and improving your respiratory?
Yeah, you know what? Number one, I know there's companies, I'm sure you're affiliated with some, that can check air quality, the level of your air quality. It can check for mold spores. Obviously, looking at your like maybe having a proper HVAC system, HEPA filters. I would suggest if you're gonna, more often than not, if you're gonna feel ill in your house, is because of poor indoor air quality. So checking air qualities, I think, is paramount. Having the proper filters in place, but it's hard to recognize and identify what could be causing poor air quality without actually having somebody come in and take a look and assess the air quality.
Right. And so like in my network, I know people who do air quality assessments, both on the commercial and residential side.
Yeah.
And there are different alternatives. Sometimes it's as simple as just putting a new filter.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't do much about it because you're in a location where there's just pollutions outside. So you got to control how the ventilation works in and out, right?
Yeah, especially if you're having respiratory issues. Like let's say you have children and they're developing asthma and you're having difficulty breathing. More often than not, that's probably a air quality issue. So.
Right. Which makes sense to, again, in my opinion, to address that first. Look at the air quality before start giving them medications.
Well, that's what I mean.
Right?
Like as a naturopath, when we have patients that come in, parents that bring their kids in, we always ask them about their environment. Okay, what kind of house do you live in? Is it an older house, newer house? Is it an apartment? Where are you living? Are you underground? Are you in a basement suite? Is it mold anywhere? Right? Like we have to look at all that kind of stuff.
I like that you do that.
Yeah.
Because I've made a point of that regular doctors, not to knock on the doctors, but they're not going to usually ask about the house quality or what's going on.
We even ask where do you work? Like, what are you exposed to? Because all these things are very important. Because the last thing we want to do is just, as a naturopath, I can give you something. I can give you a Band-Aid solution as well. But if I don't get to the root cause of it, then how am I any different than any other physician who's giving a pharmaceutical? I'm giving you a natural version of that pharmaceutical.
Right. That's great. That's one of the reasons I'm talking to you.
Yeah. And then, we look at a lot of different factors, of course. And patients get upset. They're like, oh my God, this intake form is like 6 pages long. It's taking me forever. I'm like, listen. That's why you're here. You're not getting better anywhere else. This is what we just need to investigate.
Yeah. Right. Look into it. That's very good. Okay. So air, very important. Water, perhaps equally as important, right? So can you share some insights on the role of water in creating a healthy or unhealthy home environment? And again, what steps can individuals do to ensure they have access to good water for drinking, cleaning, just optimal?
Yeah, look, we tell all our patients, make sure you're well hydrated. We've seen in our practice, just sometimes I feel bad charging patients for visits when all I tell them is, look, up your water intake to like 3 liters a day and you'll feel better, right? But if people are just walking around chronically dehydrated, not only that, but the water they're taking in is not the highest quality water. So probably the best thing would be to invest in some kind of water filtration system. We talked the other day about even when you're in the shower, right? Like your skin is your largest organ and everything absorbs through your skin. So if you're standing under a shower that's not filtered, you're actually absorbing in all the water that the toxins and whatever you have in the tap water through your skin.
Yeah, which is mainly things like chlorine is one of the big chemicals.
Yeah, chlorine. But if you check your water quality, which I recommend you do, and I'm sure you know somebody you can recommend people to, you can take your tap water and test it. You'll see that there's pharmaceuticals in there, there's antidepressants in there, there's so many chemicals in your tap water that you should not be ingesting.
Right.
So you should invest in a high quality water filtration system. There's systems that incorporate charcoal into it. Like UV radiation, like you can take it to another level. But air, water, food, bro. What else is there?
The main thing that is to be mindful of it, not to just take it for granted, right? And I see that as a realtor. Like I appreciate in Canada, home quality is generally good, compared to a lot of places in the world. There's all these regulations, environmental and stuff. So it seems easy to just kind of let it go, like. Someone's looked into it, it's been tested, and but still you have all these people who are not feeling good. Right?
And like I said earlier, like newer houses even. Like you buy a brand new house. You have these glues, adhesives, you have like paints and varnishes and all these things that off gas.
Right.
They all release these things called those volatile organic compounds.
Yeah.
all that stuff is going to make you feel like crap.
Yeah.
Carpet, dry cleaning. If you go to like a regular dry cleaner, you bring that dry cleaning home, it stinks. It gives you a headache, gives you a migraine. You should let that thing sit in your garage with the windows open for a day. Let that off-gassing get out before you bring it into your house.
Right.
Right? So there's all these kind of things that we don't, you don't think twice about it, right? You're like, the new car smell.
Yeah.
You heard
That's the off-gassing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's off-gassing,
Yeah.
right? New car smell. Oh, wow, I like that, right? But that off-gassing, that new car smell, that new home smell, that's all bad for you.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, actually, so that leads into my next question about toxicity, right?
Yeah.
Addressing toxicity in the home. You mentioned, okay, in new homes, right? There's the off-gassing. What about like older homes, like in terms of toxicity stuff or things?
I think for older homes, obviously, I'm not a builder, but I know before a certain date there's asbestos. But asbestos typically, from my understanding, and you would know better, unless you disturb it, it's relatively okay.
Yeah,
right?
that's generally,
Yeah.
that's my understanding from experts as well,
Yeah.
right?
But a lot of older homes, obviously, they have water damage, and with water comes mold. I think the big thing in older homes would be the ventilation system and the possibility there's mold in places where you don't know.
Right.
So it's, look, it's your family's health. You spend a few $100, have a professional come in, just do an assessment, check for spores in the air, make sure there's no mold. Because trust me, if you have kids and you're living in an older house, never mind, your health, but your kids' health, they're more vulnerable, right? So it's good to get tested for, get your air quality tested for mold, especially in an older house. And a lot of older houses with the paint, the paint has lead in it, but as long as your kids aren't like chewing on the paint.
What about lead pipes?
Lead pipes too, yeah. So again, it's important,
older homes, right?
Bro, get your water checked.
Yeah.
Get your water checked. I know there's you can buy these even these kits that test your water and stuff, right? They'll pretty much spit out what heavy metals are in there.
Yeah.
You don't want lead in your water, man. You don't want lead in your paint. You don't want lead in your water. You don't want lead in your body.
Right.
Lead reduces IQ. It makes people really stupid.
Yeah. That's why
This study has been shown. Yeah. Lead reduces IQ.
In fact, I think in one of my researching in real estate stuff, like lead, there's no acceptable.
Yeah, there's no accept, just like mercury,
right?
Yet they used to stick it in your mouth for fillings.
Yeah,
they were like, it's fine, don't worry about it.
But even like 0.005 parts per billion,
there's no safe amount of lead, man. You don't want any lead, but you're exposed to lead everywhere. You're exposed to heavy metals everywhere.
Yeah.
What can you do, right? All you can do is minimize your exposure.
Yeah.
But you can't eliminate it completely.
Yeah. Well, actually, that segues into kind of my final question, right? What can we do, right? So in terms of we are exposed to it, right? Like I said, the lead, the toxicity stuff, and a lot of older homes, like pretty much any home prior to 1990, is very likely going to have lead pipes.
Yeah.
Before the 80s is likely to have asbestos, right? And if it wasn't maintained properly, potentially mold and stuff can happen, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you don't know all that's there, or you're in the process of getting rid of it or something like that. From a naturopathic point of view, what are some natural strategies and remedies that you've done to recommend to detox, to relieve those kind of symptoms?
Well, I think the first thing is identifying potential exposures. So looking, like we said, we ask a lot of questions about where do you live, where do you work, identifying and eliminating or trying to minimize exposure. So maybe getting somebody to come in, check the air quality, check the water quality, and if, changing piping, et cetera, changing HEPA filters, all that kind of stuff. I don't know too much about that stuff, right?
But from a natural point, someone comes in.
Naturopathic, once we do that, there's a lot of things we can do. We recommend, there's 2 or 3 different liver cleanses, liver kidney cleanses that we recommend. But ultimately, it boils down to, you can test for your exposure to certain heavy metals and toxins, which is called, it's not your conventional testing. It's functional medicine testing that we do. So we can actually test for all sorts of different volatile organic compounds or your level of exposure to it. You can test it through blood, you can test it through hair. And then based on that, we can put together a protocol where you may need supplements, you may need IVs. We do a bunch of IVs for heavy metal detoxification. So it really is case by case, but we usually start with identifying, eliminating, and then testing. Yeah.
So, and that's kind of the standard protocol, right?
Yeah.
And that's the naturopathic way to do it, right? And then let the body...
Yeah, let the body just support the body to deal with whatever it is that we identified in our investigation process. So if it's lead, if it's mercury, then there's different approaches to different toxins. Yeah.
Beautiful. Very good.
Yeah.
That's very thorough. I think we can talk for hours about this, but I want to keep it kind of straight and to the point, effective. So I think we hit the main points, air, water, toxicity, what to do about it. Make sure your home is healthy, get different expert opinions from inspectors or quality control technicians or even health and medical professionals like Dr. Badesha.
Yeah, we see patients every day that just feel off. I just don't feel my energy's off. I have a headache all the time. I have this persistent cough, and then you start, you delve deep into their environment. Like the environment is key.
Yeah.
In everybody's health. So if you're living in a house or spending most of your time in an office, where do you spend most of your time? You spend most of your time wherever you work and where you live, right? So if you're in an older office building, that could be the cause of it. It could be your house. So just looking into all those things. And you quite often see like if it is that sick building syndrome, it's not just you that feels like crap. It's multiple people in that building, right? They all have similar symptoms.
Right. And then they'll just say, oh, something's going around. But they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know what it is, right?
Right?
And they can't pinpoint it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate that. That's a lot of information, that on a very digestible level and useful. So appreciate it. Thank you very much for that opportunity. All right. So that's the end of our show for today. Thank you again for watching.